So my name is Wayne Lesperance. I'm the interim president at New England College, and this is my 24th year at NEC. Hispanic Heritage Month is an opportunity to acknowledge my past, my roots. I think of my grandfather and my grandmother on their farm. I think of my cousins and uncles and aunts, the extended family, the friends. My grandparents had this little piece of land in Puerto Rico where they grew sugarcane primarily, and that was sugarcane that would go to Bacardi to produce rum. I remember as a little boy, my grandfather just taking me out and walking through the fields, and we'd see all the things that they were growing. And he was just a really good man. And I remember him telling me, he'd reach down and scoop up a little bit of earth, and he'd say, Wayne, at the end of the day, it all comes back to this. It all comes back to the earth. That sticks with me. It's a very humbling and grounding thing. When you think about all the stuff around us, the things that we spend so much time caring about and worrying about, for him in his life, it was the earth, it was the soil and what could grow from that. Those are, for me, very wholesome values that I hold on to. I really appreciate that for my family in Puerto Rico, their livelihoods was based on what they could grow. When we get to the Hispanic Heritage Month, I think back to that. I think to the music, the food, which is amazing, and the laughter that seemed to be part of every conversation, every meal, every activity. There's just this richness of life. And so it means something to me. And that so many Americans who aren't Hispanic have an interest of Hispanic culture. That's so cool. That's, to me, one of the really great things about the United States is that on a day in March, I can be Irish for a day. I can be, an Italian for a day, or I can celebrate other cultures. And that's awesome. I mean, what a special place to be when you can learn about different people and get a taste of their culture. We have a huge Indian student population in our graduate programs at NEC, and we have celebrated their holidays. We play cricket with them, which I still don't understand, but I try. And it's fun because you're learning something new about people, and you get to see their laughter and their cultural experiences and what makes them happy. And there's nothing better than that in my view. And so whether it's Hispanic Heritage Month or some other group of people, the opportunity to celebrate those cultures, those experiences is just exciting and fun. I was born in a small town called Bayamon, Puerto Rico. My mother was born and raised in Puerto Rico. My father was in the U.S. Navy, and he was stationed there, and they met and they fell in love and got married, and I came later. I lived there till I was 6. So, my identity is very much tied to those Puerto Rican roots. My first language was Spanish. I learned English later. My religion is Catholicism, and that comes from that upbringing in a Hispanic culture in a place like Puerto Rico. I was very close to my grandparents. I'm still close to my grandmother, who turned 106 this year. It's a really important formative experience to grow up someplace where it's very different than what we have here in the States. And it makes me appreciate what we have in the US. So from Puerto Rico, we eventually settled in Virginia. My dad was in the service, as I mentioned, in the Navy. And so I grew up in Virginia Beach, Navy town, had a fantastic educational experience, got to play football, which is my passion, the sport I loved the most. And, over time, going from the beaches of Puerto Rico to the beaches of Virginia, very different, by the way, growing up, in the South, I learned a lot of things about, what it means to be an American and the kind of values, especially in a state like Virginia, where so many of our founders were from. And so my love of history, my love of international relations and politics really kind of developed over the years through those experiences, seeing the world. I had aunts and uncles and parents who really wanted me to travel. They wanted to make sure that I had a sense of the world. So when I was 10 years old, we went all through Mexico, through parts of Central America. As I got older, I traveled to Europe. I went to Egypt a couple of times. I ended up studying Arabic in college because I wanted to focus on that part of the world. And so that sort of internationalization of my life experience has really informed my view, my commitment to diversity and inclusion. You see humanity in many different forms in the world. You come to appreciate that just because we may look different or speak differently or pray differently doesn't mean that we're any less human. And to me, that's the value, that humanity that we all share. I have the privilege of being the first Hispanic president of New England College, which I think is awesome. I know my mom is excited about that. She wants to send a note to the newspapers in Bayamon, Puerto Rico, and say, this little boy from Puerto Rico has done this thing, and that's pretty exciting too.